Hey guys, what's going on? Troy at Mountain Man Treasure, and we're thrilled to have Andy Storch in. And look, I'm in my garage with like this light so that you can actually see me. And Andy's got a studio because he's actually a big shot.
I don't know if I call it a studio. It's a home office with a microphone, but it looks good, which is nice.
You've got your own face on the wall, man. Like you're doing something right.
True. This is true. I know people, and I know people that can print things. I happen to be featured on a digital magazine a few weeks ago, run by this woman in Australia that I know through LinkedIn. She put me on the cover of the magazine, and so many people were like, "You should. I would like a signed copy of that, or you should print that out and put it on your wall." And I was like, "I don't even know how to do that." And then my assistant Stephanie surprised me one day and did it, had it printed and shipped it to me. So then when my book came out, I was like, "Can you do that again?" And so she ordered it. And by the way, so the poster,
there it is.
That was, I think, $60 on Shutterfly. So easy. And then you put it up on the wall. Now I got the book behind me at all times. It's pretty cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on. Typically, I was chatting with Andy before the show, and typically, obviously, this is a reselling channel first and foremost, and we talk about how you can make money online. I've turned this from I think I can sell 2 or 3 things a month, maybe was when I first started this a couple years ago, into in 2 years, we've cut off something like 7 years of student loan debt and medical bills. And this is a very viable way for people to make money on the side. And people also do this full time. And a lot of people start part-time with the intent of, let me learn enough and go full time. And so much of what Andy does is, he does everything. He's got a couple podcasts. He's your talent coach officially. You're you go out and you do motivational speaking. I mean, you do a ton of stuff, man.
Yeah, and the tie-in that could kind of make this interesting is that while if you go back to March of 2020 and before, my main business was selling and running in-person training programs. So I was flying around the country and the world a lot, running leadership development workshops. I was on stages. I was shaking hands, meeting with people in person. Obviously, when COVID hit, everything got shut down and went virtual. And I've pivoted to run a completely virtual business where I'm still essentially selling myself, not selling products like many of your viewers and your network, your subscribers might be doing. But I am fully online, leveraging social media and different platforms to sell myself, build my brand, and now sell my book, right, on Amazon and other places. And so it's been a big pivot this year. But yeah, I do consulting and coaching. I do speaking. I've got the book. I'm starting to develop some content. I'm going to launch probably some digital courses in the new year in January, and as well as some corporate learning programs to try to sell into big companies. And yeah, don't forget to hit that thumbs up.
There you go. You have, in talking about the podcasts, you have 2 different. One's not enough for you. You have 2 podcasts.
That's right. Yeah. I started my first podcast in 2017, and it was about entrepreneurship. And the reason being, and I know you mentioned, a lot of people who follow you and watch the show are either in jobs and looking for ways to maybe either make a little extra money or maybe get out of the job and be an entrepreneur, or maybe have made that transition. That was my dream. I was working as an employee for a consulting company, great company, great culture. There was nothing wrong with it, but I just felt really strongly compelled to be running my own business and be an entrepreneur and have that freedom. And so I wanted to learn as much as I could about that. So I started a podcast about entrepreneurship. And then what I learned from that, the first year of doing it, was that it allowed me to have conversations with a lot of people that I wouldn't normally get to talk to, right? Case in point, this right here, Troy, you and I have been connected. We've never talked before. You invited me on an interview. Now we're talking, we're getting to know each other, right? So I would see that happening a lot, and that I would get access to these like really cool, famous entrepreneurs that I probably wouldn't get to talk to otherwise. So when I left that job in corporate, and I made the move to become an independent consultant with this small little company called Advantage Performance Group, I was primarily selling, again, my business was selling and running training programs to companies. So my typical client was someone who worked in corporate talent development. So they oversaw all the training programs in the big companies. And these are really big companies, like at least 1,000 employees, if not more, to really have
like
some
Walmart, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like a Fortune 500, the big brands you've heard of, stuff like that. And I thought, well, if that podcast works in entrepreneurship, maybe I start one in talent development. And so I did, primarily to get connected with people in that space, potential clients, and learn as much as I could. And it worked fantastically. I started getting all these, conversations going with very senior people in that space that I know probably wouldn't take the time to talk to me, but I'm giving them a platform, an opportunity to speak, right? And interviewing them. And so that podcast kept going. The entrepreneurship podcast, I decided to change in, I think, 2018 to be called the Andy Storch Show, because I wanted it to be more about personal development and basically whatever I wanted to talk about. And so it was running as that for a couple of years. And then when I launched my book this year called Own Your Career, Own Your Life, I decided to rebrand that podcast as the Own Your Career, Own Your Life podcast. And I'm really big on branding. And I think it was important to have that consistency. So maybe people read the book and they want more, they can go find the podcast, right? It's a lot easier to find than, say, the Andy Storch Show. And then the talent development podcast keeps going because I have some things going on in that world. Like I run a membership community for talent development professionals. I ran a conference earlier this year, back when we could do those kinds of things. And so they're kind of like two separate spaces, but it is a lot. But I like, it allows me to have a lot of different conversations, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting, your book, Own Your Career, Own Your Life. So many people that get into reselling, that's exactly why they get in. Yeah, there it is. And I have one actually, and I'm about 6 pages in, admittedly. I'm not very far, but I started reading it. I
heard it starts slow. You got to keep going.
Is that what it is? You got to slog through the
beginning. That's right.
It's interesting because so many people that get into reselling, it's because they want to own their career. They want to own their life. I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to work for me. And, that's what this book is about.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, that's not, I guess I shouldn't say that's all that this book is about, but that's a pillar.
That's the main thing, right? It is about owning your career and owning your life, which means taking full responsibility, taking ownership, responsibility for everything going on, and taking initiative to go out and achieve the things that you want. So if you are not happy with your career, asking yourself, well, what is it that you're not happy about? Is it the job itself? Is it your manager? Is it the company? Is it the culture? Is it the commute? Is it the pay? And are there things you could do to potentially alleviate that, change that? It could just be a conversation with your manager, or is there something more that you want? Thinking about who you are, you're doing a lot of self-reflection. What do you want out of life? What's your purpose? What are your values? What's important to you? If you really value freedom and flexibility, like I do, hi Nana, then you might want to move towards something that provides that for you. Entrepreneurship and running your own business is not for everybody. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's not for everybody. And some people want to just do some stuff, like what you're doing on the side, right, to make some extra money, which is totally cool too. This is about being honest with who you are, what you want, and then taking action towards that. So if that might mean going and talking to your manager and putting a plan in place for how can you get promoted, or if you want to change careers, going and starting to talk to people that do the thing that you want to do, if you want to get into marketing or sales or something like that, or if you want to start building a business on the side, a side hustle, selling things, selling on Amazon or eBay, it's starting to do that. It's going out and finding a show like this, maybe taking a class, maybe networking with some people that do it, and then trying the first thing. Be willing to put some, skin in the game, invest some money, some time, and give it a shot. I think most people sit around miserable and don't follow their dreams because they're so afraid of failure. Fear often holds people back. But you got to get out of your comfort zone and try things. And that's when you're really going to be owning your career and owning your life, when you're living life on your terms.
And that's what I was going to ask is what is the biggest obstacle? I mean, or at least the most common obstacle to maybe even just getting started. Is it overcoming that fear and saying, you know what, I believe in myself?
Yeah. So the two big obstacles are mindset and fear. So the mindset, you have to have the right mindset that you're willing to try new things. It's okay to fail. It's great to learn new things. We've got a long life and a long career, so it's cool to pivot and try different things. Be more growth minded. And then fear often holds people back because they're afraid of one of three things or all of three things: failure, failure, rejection, or judgment, right? What if I try selling some stuff online and I don't make any money? What if I fail and I lose money? And then I think of myself as a failure, or my spouse says, "Oh, look what you did, right? You tried this and it didn't work, just like everything else, and it fails, right?" Or your friends laugh at you, or you're rejected, right? You reach out to somebody for a joint venture or somebody to help you with something, and they turn you down, and you end up being like judged. You're afraid of being judged by friends or colleagues or whoever it may be. Yeah, fear. Sola said, fear stopped me until one day I said, "What the heck? Give it a try." That's exactly it. And people ask me, so fear holds so many people back. And then the solution to that is simple but not easy, which is you got to starve your fears. You got to just take action, because there's no other way around it. If you're afraid of something, it's probably something you should probably do or try. And you're never going to stop being afraid of it until you try and do it. And the funny thing is, I've worked with a lot of people on this, that most of the time the thing we're afraid of is really not that bad. And our worst fears rarely come, to life. And so, like I talk to a lot of people. I'm big on building I can't talk this late. I'm big on building a personal brand. And I post a lot of content. I have 2 podcasts. I post a lot of content on social media, especially LinkedIn, but as well as Instagram and other places. And a lot of people say, well, I'd like to do something like that, but I'm so afraid of posting something out there, what people might say, right? And until you do it, you don't know. And then you do, and you realize like, oh, nobody's laughing at me. This is really not that bad. Like I can do this. And then you do it again and again. And what I learned about this process from other mentors along the way is that courage, a lot of people think courage means that you're fearless. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is looking at fear and then taking action anyway. So saying like, yes, I am afraid of this. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose money. I'm afraid that I'm going to be judged for this. I'm afraid that my friends are going to laugh at me because I'm trying to start this business and it may not work, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's courage. And then when you do it, that builds experience, and experience builds confidence, and confidence makes that fear start to go away a little bit after you do something a long time. And everybody can probably think of something that was really scary the first time they did it, and then now you do it without even thinking about it, like riding a bike or jumping in the pool, right? The very first time you did it, it was scary. And then eventually you got good at it, and now you wouldn't think twice about getting on a bike and riding around the block or driving a car, because you've done it so many times. It's just easy.
Yeah, it seems like even no matter how supportive the community you're in, the family you're in, there's no end to people that you can point to and go, well, if I do this, then that person and that person and that person. There's always a bunch of people that you think are going to laugh at you or say you're going to fail. And maybe they are, maybe they won't.
Right.
The thing is doing YouTube. There's a lot of people that have a lot of great information. The reselling community, we all learn from each other. And the way you learn is by doing stuff and watching stuff. YouTube is an incredible teacher for people learning how to do this. And there's so many people that should be doing it, but they're scared to put themselves out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're afraid that one person is going to laugh at them or criticize them. But it's probably not going to happen. And even if it does, like you can't let yourself stop yourself just because of that one person. Yeah.
Nana Tink said she was scared to death to do her first video. 1 year in, it's so easy.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah. Can you give a little bit of your history? Because I know you've talked about owning your career, owning your life. You kind of went through, you didn't start out by going, you know what, I'm going to jump on LinkedIn. I'm going to talk to, heads of industry. You kind of took a meandering path to get there.
Oh yeah.
And that light bulb went off and now you're where you belong.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a long, crazy meandering career. I spent a lot of my 20s really drifting, not knowing where I was going, watching a lot of sports, drinking every night, going out and partying and stuff with friends. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. In hindsight, though, I wasn't really acting with intention toward any sort of goal, anything I wanted to do. And I had a lot of jobs that weren't a good fit for me, that I didn't work out really well, where I failed and I didn't get promoted and I had to move on to something else. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, we've all had this journey. We've all been doing a lot of different things. I had to keep trying stuff and failing at things to find the thing that I really loved and that I wanted to get into. For me, one of my big breaks was in 2010, I was in a job working for a big insurance company that I absolutely hated. And I wanted to try to do something else. And I thought that I might want to try to get into sales. I hadn't worked in sales, but I heard, that's the way to go, because you build those skills, they're useful anywhere, you can make more money, etc. And I reached out to a friend of mine named Adam Boggs, who had worked in sales most of his career. I didn't know him that well, but I knew that was the case. And I sent him an email and I said, hey, I'm thinking about maybe trying to get into sales. Can you help me? And he wrote back and said, actually, I just started a new job at this really cool consulting company. You should check it out. And we started talking, and he got me an interview at that company, and he helped me prepare for it. This is a really tough interview process. And I flew up to San Francisco where the company was, and I nailed it, and I got the job. And it was because I reached out to him and he made that introduction. Otherwise, I never would have even heard of that company, which is a big tenet in my book, what I talk about preparing for your future and how to set yourself up for success in no matter what you're doing, is building a network, going out and building relationships and talking to people. I've got a couple chapters in there about building a network, the importance of it, how and why you should go out and do it, even in a virtual world, because I was able to completely adjust the entire book for COVID. I was writing it when everything hit. So that was a big break. And then when I decided that I wanted to get into entrepreneurship, a friend of mine named Bennett Phillips, who I'd known for several years, invited me to come join him in his business and become an independent consultant. And so that was a great break for me as well. And that's when I really started getting into LinkedIn more. And then again, for me, it's a lot of influence from people around me. So I remember when I started getting into LinkedIn and I was thinking, and I was starting to create some content, I had a friend named Liston who was a little bit ahead of me in the game. He was a sales training guy, and he was creating a lot of content on LinkedIn. And he invited me to this little group of content creators. And I started seeing what they were doing. And it kind of influenced me to really up my game and start posting videos and all kinds of different content on LinkedIn. And that all allowed me to start building my network or building my following there. But the other thing was reaching out and just making real connections with people for, several years, and building a network that way has been really powerful. So the podcast and then creating content. And then don't forget, if you're creating content anywhere, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, anything, like anybody that is following you or watching you is a real person. So if you can make, connections, reach out. Hey, what are you working on? What are you doing? What brings you by here? I've made a lot of friends that way, clients, all kinds of stuff has been powerful. So it's been like a slow journey along the way towards me really taking ownership of everything that I'm doing and saying, hey, this is the thing I want to do. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be creating content. I want to be helping and influencing others. I want to be making a difference in the world. How do I create a business that really allows me to do that, do those things? And that's basically what I've created. And I've got a vision for where I'm going, but things, you never know how things might change in the future.
Yeah. And you touched on it, but I think important probably to focus in on it just real quickly is you mentioned, I think, growth mindset. And I think that's an important thing for anybody that's trying to run their own business. Even if it's a side hustle, you got to have some sort of growth mindset. And you've talked before also about, focusing on the process.
Yeah. The growth mindset is huge, I think, no matter what you're getting into. So that goes back to a book called Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck, which is a book that definitely changed a lot of things for me when I read it a few years ago. Dr. Dweck is a professor at Stanford, and she wrote this book called Mindset. And she basically said that people operate with two types of mindsets, either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. With a fixed mindset, we believe that most things in life are static. So we're either smart or we're not, we're creative or we're not, we're good at something or we're not. And if we try to do something and it doesn't work, then we failed at that. We're not good at that, and we should go try to do something else, right? Or we think we probably won't be good at something, so we shouldn't even try, right? For instance, when I played baseball most of my childhood, I played and loved playing baseball, but I wasn't that great. And when I got to high school, I decided I'm not really that good, and the high school team is really good, so I'm not even going to try out. It's crazy to me now that was my thought process, and I didn't even try when there were only risks. There was no downside other than, being in the same position I was in, which is not on the team, right? There's no but for me at the time, that was the way I was thinking. And then the growth mindset is one that we can always learn, we can always grow, we can always improve, we can always get better at something. And there really is no failure. There's just learning opportunities, right? We can always learn from every opportunity. So with a growth mindset, we can go out and try anything. We can say like, I'm going to try to create a YouTube channel. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. If it doesn't, at least I'll learn something from it. I'm going to try to create, an Amazon seller page, and I'm going to sell some stuff on there, and I'm going to see what happens. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, I'll learn from it and I'll move on and do something else. And we don't worry as much about failure. We don't let failure define us. That mindset is so important, especially when you are trying to be an entrepreneur. For me, it has been absolutely critical. And it's what has allowed me to pivot and do so many different things over the last year. I mean, this year, I completely changed my business. I went virtual. I launched a membership community. I hosted a virtual summit that had almost 2,000 people attend in September. I launched a book. And all these things are because I have this growth mindset. I'm able to put this stuff out there and not worry so much about it failing. My mindset on it is that there is no such thing as failure. There's only learning and growth. And so if I do something and it doesn't work out that well, like I do this interview and people are like, well, that sucked. At least I could learn from it. I'm like, well, what sucked about it? And like, maybe I could get better for next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like what Nana says there, even the disappointments and negative acts is a learning opportunity for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I think is interesting, you talked about on a recent podcast, not focusing on what you can't control. And that's just almost a human default, isn't it? That you have to intentionally focus on focusing on.
That's right.
I mean,
you got to move your focus away from it. Yeah. You got to remind yourself, like, this is not something in my control. Like, I know it's always dangerous to talk politics, but this past US election is a perfect example of something that was just captivating and pulling people's minds in, no matter what side you're on. Everybody's thinking about it and arguing about it, going online, debating with people about it. And other than the one vote that you could cast, and because of our electoral system, your one vote only really matters if you're in one of like 13 states. Right. Then, the rest of the states out there are pretty like foregone conclusion, like where you are. In Montana, your vote didn't matter, right? It was going to go Republican no matter what, right? And if you live in New York or California, your vote doesn't matter. It's going to go Democrat no matter what, right? I live in Florida, so you could say my vote was a little bit more important. But at the end of the day, you have no control over this election. You have no control over who the president is. And yet people let it like suck so much energy up in their minds and worry about it. And then at the end of the day, I have to remind people too, that the president has way less power than we give that person credit for. My life is not impacted at all by who the president is. I'm not worried about who the president is. I vote, but we focus so much of our attention on these things that are out of our control. So then you think about all the other things going on in life. There are so many things that are outside of our control that we often worry about, and we take up a lot of our mind share when we really need to focus our energy on what are the things we can control. How do we show up at work? How do we show up for our family? Are we running a business? What types of things are we doing? You can set yourself, you can't control what's going to happen in the stock market and the overall economy, but you can control how you set up your business. You can control how you prepare for potential downturns or, potential bad times. If you're investing in real estate, you can't control if there's going to be a real estate crash, but you can do some things to mitigate your risks if that's going to happen. Same thing with investing in the stock market. Same thing with, selling online, right? There are risks. You can prepare for those things. You can't control the things. So you can't really, there's no point in worrying about the things you can't control, but you can focus on the things that are in your control and prepare for whatever those things may be.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw somebody this morning in a reseller Facebook group kind of posed the question, hey, the Postal Service right now is really slow. It's losing packages. What do you guys think about shutting down your store until after Christmas while they're so busy? And there was people saying, yeah, I worry about it. I don't want people losing packages, and then I have to refund, that package if it gets lost. And I kind of jumped in, and I didn't want to get back in getting a whole back and forth, but I said, look, I had like $700 in gross sales this weekend. If one of those packages gets lost, on the whole, it's okay, but I can't focus on what if. Right. I don't want to shut down for 2 weeks and not make sales during the busiest time of the year.
Yeah, you got to give up $1,000 in profit or whatever
package. You've got to just kind of push ahead and not worry about the fact that maybe some of those are going to get lost. There's nothing you can do about it.
That's right. It's out of your control, right? You can't control the Postal Service. You could, maybe find a different route, a different, more reliable way to send stuff. It might be more expensive, right? If you want to go UPS or FedEx, I don't know. I was at the post office this morning sending off a bunch of books and stuff to clients and people. I wasn't thinking about whether it's going to get there. I'm just going to trust them that it's going to get there, right? And if one gets lost, I'll send another one, right? I'm not gonna worry too much about it. Like you said, you made $700. You're going to shut the whole thing down and give up all that profit just because you're worried about one thing getting lost.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
What I like asking, because for folks that don't know, I have a radio show in the mornings, and I interview a lot of people. And one of the things when I interview, like we had a new city manager here in town recently, and I talked with her, or we have senators, or we have whoever in. And one of the questions that I like to go to, and I think this is interesting in your context, is how do you define success? And usually for most people, it's in your role as, a senator or a city manager. But for you in this, in the light of your book and in what you do, how do you define success?
Yeah, I talk about that in the book, actually, how to define success and how to deal with failure. I believe success is has a very personal definition. So I'm glad you asked people that. For me, while I do want to make a lot of money and provide for my family, I think success has nothing to do with money or title or anything. Success for me is being completely happy, satisfied, and fulfilled with my life, and really living life on my terms and with no regrets. And there'll occasionally be mistakes and regrets, but it's really being happy with my life. So that means there are big goals I still want to achieve. I'm working on things. Things don't always go my way. I'm making mistakes, but I have a wife and 2 kids who love me. No matter what I do, if I'm with them and I'm doing the work that I love, I'm happy, which I am, then I consider myself to be successful. Now, other people can define success differently for themselves. Like, I need to make $150,000 a year to feel successful, or I need to live in a warm place to be. I don't know, whatever it is, you get to define success for yourself. The important thing is, don't let other people define success for you. Don't sit there thinking, well, I'm not successful because my friend has this job making 6 figures and I only make $40,000 a year, blah, 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 whatever it is. But if you're happy with your life, who gives a shit? Like, it doesn't matter, right? My little brother, I have a book. I run this online business. I got all this stuff going on. I make decent money. My little brother delivers pizza for a living and smokes weed and goes to concert festivals. And you know what? He's really happy. He loves his life. And so I can't fault him for that. I can't criticize him for that. Like, he likes his life. He likes the way he lives. And I like the way I live. And to me, that's great. That's success.
Yeah. And so often it's hard to find that, isn't it? Because because we put artificial guardrails on the whole thing of what we're supposed to do or what we think we're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So it feels like even for you, it took you a while to find that fulfillment.
That's right. Yeah. And early on, success for me was I was ambitious. I wanted to move up the company chain, right, and get promoted and like one day be an executive or a partner in the consulting firm that I was in. And none of those things happened, by the way. I did not achieve any of those things. And it was frustrating at times. But then I realized later, like, I don't know, what's the point in that stuff? Like, that's not what I truly want. What I want is to have freedom and flexibility, be able to travel with my family, run a business however I want, be able to make the money I want, that sort of stuff. And I realized that I personally am a bit of a rebel. I don't like working for other people. And so I'm cut out to be more of an entrepreneur. And so I'm glad I found this. And this is, what I really love doing. But again, for other people, it might be very different, right? Everybody gets to define success for themselves.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what so many people, they want to work for them. They want to do their own thing. And that's what basically anybody that watches this, now or comes back around, they're looking at trying, whether full-time or part-time, they want to control some part of their life. Yeah. And so I think that's why, and you mentioned not comparing yourself to others. And I think that's very easy to do, even in the reselling circles, because you see people on Instagram or on Facebook or on YouTube, going, look at, I sold 82 things this weekend, and you're looking at, you've got one box in your hand. You're going to the post.
One. Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, success is relative, and so you can't compare yourself to other people.
That's right. Yeah. So I have a chapter in the book about comparison as well, because it's impacted me. I see how it impacts other people. And I want to mention the comment there from Sola Seller. I like, celebrating the little things. Mm-hmm. I celebrate every book that I sell on Amazon and every review I get on Amazon. By the way, feel free to buy my book and leave a review on Amazon. I celebrate every single one of those.
And by the way, if you come back around, or even if you're watching now, there's a link in the description to Andy's book on Amazon.
Awesome. Excellent. So I like to celebrate that little stuff. And the comparison thing is bad, right? It's been around for generations, even before social media. People always compared themselves to, hey, my neighbor has a nicer car or a nicer horse, or it seems like a happier marriage, whatever it may be, right? And we look at that, and then Jennifer's got my IG there. That's right. And LinkedIn. Love it.
Jennifer is the queen of like dropping links for everything. Amazing.
That's awesome. But the problem is with social media, people are posting so much stuff, and we see so many great things out there, and we start to compare our whole lives to other people's highlight reels. So what you see from other people is the highlight reel. My favorite is like, people post these great pictures from a trip, and you're like, oh man, they just had this fantastic trip. Look how wonderful it was. They don't post anything about the like knockdown argument they had over like which place they were going to go to next, or like, blah, blah, whatever it may be. Right. Or all the, they got the promotion. That's great. But what about all the late nights they worked and the hard work they put in? That's not always there. So you don't always see everything. So when I talk about comparison, the things that I do and that I recommend is that when you see people that you find yourself comparing and going, how come they are able to do that and I'm not? Or how come they have it figured out and I don't? Or why are they so lucky, or whatever it may be? First of all, realize that you're not seeing the whole picture. They have challenges that they're not telling you about. Everybody has challenges. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, all that sort of stuff. Second of all, look at them. If they're doing something that you truly want to accomplish, then ask yourself, how did they accomplish that? What are they doing that's allowing them to do that? And is there something I can learn from them, or can I be inspired by them? So if it's another seller and they're clearly selling a lot more than you are and they're bragging about it, what can you learn from them? Have they figured something out that maybe you haven't? You might even reach out and say, hey man, I saw that you sold those 72 things over the weekend. Like, how did you build your business up like that? And they may be really happy to tell you. And then the last piece is, if none of those things are true, if they're not really inspiring you, they're just annoying you, and they're finding that you're bringing you down, just cut them out of your life, cut them out of your feed, unfollow them. Like, don't do that to yourself. Like, social media, you need to own social media instead of letting it own you. So if someone in your feed is not serving you, someone's not serving me, I hide them. I take them out of the feed. They're posting negative crap, whatever it may be. Like, I don't need to see it.
Yeah. I mentioned to you before we started, Andy, we've got a guy coming on after me on YouTube that lives in Florida. And there he is right there. Joey Bada Bing 22.
What's up, Joey?
Your career and owning your life. This is a guy maybe of anybody else that I see on YouTube that has grabbed a hold of, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do it. He always wanted to be on YouTube. So he's on YouTube. Like that's why he's like, I love reselling. And I've always wanted to be on YouTube. Let's put those two things together. And he's fantastic. He's really, really good. So, Joey, you got another Floridian in your Orlando area, Andy?
Orlando, yeah, downtown.
Yeah, I couldn't remember where you were. And Joey, I got water tonight, man. I'm healthy.
Yeah, I'm drinking tea.
Yeah. Always wonders what I'm drinking. Sometimes it's some oddball color, but Joey, thanks for stopping in, man. I sure appreciate you. And we are going to let Andy go here in a couple minutes. He's a busy guy and it is late and he's got a lot of stuff going on. I want to respect his time, but I want to ask first, before we let you go, if anybody had any questions. So if you have questions for Andy, get them in here over the next couple minutes. But Andy, give your elevator speech for why folks should buy your book. We'll let you pitch this thing, and I'm not doing it just for no reason. I truly think it's a valuable book.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So the book I wrote primarily for corporate professionals to stop drifting and take control of their future, to really take ownership of their career and their life. This book is great for everybody, including entrepreneurs. I am personally an entrepreneur. I have a huge network of entrepreneurs. I put everything into this to help you take ownership of your career and life and truly achieve whatever goals you're trying to achieve. So the first section is all about owning your career, setting a vision, connecting to purpose, understanding your values, and then setting a goal and making a plan to go out and achieve that. The second section is about preparing for the future. So these are doing things like investing in continuous learning, how to go out and build a powerful network to set you up for success, and how to build a great personal brand to help you down the line, whether you're building a business or a career. And then the third part is all about owning your life, which is a lot about mindset, how to have the right mindset to succeed, what is success and failure, dealing with comparison and imposter syndrome, things like that. And then a lot of little things that you can do to set yourself up for success, like having a strong morning routine, things I do like meditation, reading, writing, using a journal. Speaking of that, because I have used a lot of journals over the years to help me achieve my goals, in addition to the book, I also created this handy dandy companion journal, which is also available on Amazon. If you look for Own Your Career, Own Your Life Companion Journal, and it has prompts and space for all of the things that I talk about in the book, all of the questions, all the things to reflect on and think about, as well as a 90-day guide of morning and evening rituals where you can track your progress towards the goal that you're working on. Your goal might be a selling goal. It might be a life goal. Could be fitness, could be anything. But what are your goals in there? It's important to write things down, tell other people, and find a way to track progress towards those goals, because they say what gets measured gets done. And that's definitely true, I found, for me. So I created the companion journal to go along with the book. But the book has everything you need to help you truly own your career and your life. I'm excited that it's out there, and I'm getting a lot of great feedback from people. I think we have 90 reviews, positive reviews on Amazon right now. I'm hoping to get a few more of those and get to 100. Speaking of goals, life goals in the near future. And I'm just really excited about the impact it's making.
Do you have a negative yet? Because that's always the fear for people making YouTube channels, is those thumbs down and you get the negative comments. And I think people sometimes avoid it or quit.
Yeah.
For that very reason.
I'm waiting for that. So I got a couple early on that are not on Amazon. I do have, I think it's almost all 5 stars, except for I think 2 or 3 4-star reviews right now. But I know they're coming, because when you create content, and especially you make it for certain people, it's not going to be for everybody, right? Somebody is going to read it and be like, this is garbage. This is not for me, which is fine. Like that's natural. It is hard to take at the moment. So when I was coming out with the book, I formed an advanced reader team, basically people who in my network who would volunteer to come in early, read the book early, give me feedback, and then support me by buying the book and leaving a review at the launch. And by the way, that was so instrumental, so awesome for my success with this book, because I had some people who went through the book with a fine-tooth comb. And even after I hired a professional editor, and still found several typos that I was able to correct before doing the official launch of the book. So it was awesome. I also got some great feedback. And then when I launched the book and I said, hey, everybody, would you please go out and buy the book and leave an honest review? And, a lot of people did and left 5-star reviews. But I had 2 people that emailed me and said, I didn't like the book. I'm not going to leave a bad review on Amazon, but I wanted to let you know. I'm like, okay, thank you. So one of them, she just said, basically, she read 35 pages and gave up and was just like, this book is not for me. I don't like it. Like, okay, that's totally going to happen, right? The second person told me, she said, this book is not good. I'm not going to leave a bad review, but let me tell you why. And I'll answer that question from Show Me Pickers in a second. But let me tell you why. And she basically said, I've already been, everything you recommend in the book, I've already been doing my whole life, and it hasn't worked. I still hate my job. And I was like, it seems like more of a you problem than a book problem. But I didn't want to give her our time, argue with her about it. I was like, all right, that's fine. If you want to talk more, you want more help, let me know. Thanks for letting me know. So that was it. So far I haven't got any public negative reviews, but I know those things are coming, right? If you want to put yourself out there, you're going to have to you're going to have to deal with that stuff. So there was a question that came from somebody about the cost of hiring a professional editor, I think.
Yeah.
And I'll just tell you, I self-published my book, which means I wrote it myself, obviously. And then I hired a professional editor. I hired a cover designer to create the cover of the book. I hired a interior designer to format the inside of the book. I even hired a copywriter to write the Amazon sales page, as many of your people may be familiar with, right? So I had to piece all that together, and I'm glad I did. So because I didn't go with a traditional publisher, I have a lot more control over everything, right? Just like you do when you sell your own stuff anywhere. There's a lot of hybrid publishers out there too, where you can pay them and they'll kind of manage that whole process for you. And I think a lot of them are typically like 20 grand, something like that, to put a book out. For me, piecing it all together the way I did, I think it ended up costing me close to $5 grand to publish the book, I'm going to say. And the editor was about half of that. So my editor charged 4 cents a word, which I think is fairly standard for good quality editors. And my book was about 55,000 words or something like that. So it ended up being like $2,400 or something. I can't remember the exact math. But anyway, that's how the cost played out.
For anybody in publishing, read your next book, Andy. If you want, if 4 cents a word, I can handle that.
Yeah. Well, he was really good. I appreciated everything he did, because not only did he like go through with a fine tooth comb and pick stuff out and fix misspelling and grammar and all that stuff, but he would like put in comments and explain like why and teach me along the way. It was really educational process. I was really happy to work with him.
Yeah, I like Media Marauder says even Stephen King gets 1-star reviews.
Oh yeah, I mean that was was I reading the book This Is Marketing by Seth Godin, which I personally didn't love the book, but there were some great nuggets in there. And what he was talking about, that how when you create content or you build a business or you do marketing, it's not going to be for everything. And he said, you know, even the Harry Potter books get 1-star reviews. And it's like, you know, I guess you don't like Harry Potter, but you know what? Billions of other people do. So I don't think that J.K. Rowling is worried about it.
Right. Well, man, I sure appreciate your time. Like I said, I want to make sure we don't keep you up too late, and want to let you get going. But I sure appreciate you coming in and sharing with us. And I have all your contact down in the description, and Jennifer's been dropping it. But my assumption is if people want to get a hold of you on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter, or I mean, you're everywhere. They can do that.
Yeah, that's right. Good timing too. My son just came in and said, "Daddy, is your interview over yet?" It's like, I think it's time to read a book and go to bed.
Fine.
Over here. So there you go. Yeah, you know, the book Own Your Career, Own Your Life is on Amazon. The companion journal is on Amazon. As you mentioned, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and Instagram. So feel free to go connect with me there, follow me there. I'm sharing content on a regular basis. Love connecting with people, hearing from people. I personally don't do the the selling of products like you talked about. I have a few friends that do. I love that you guys are out there doing that. I think it's an amazing opportunity. And I love just all the opportunities that are out there to sell things in the digital space, the online space. So keep rocking, even if things are challenging, struggling right now. Keep going, keep learning from everybody you can, from shows like this, and keep trying stuff, because you never know where it might lead. And connecting with other people, by the way, connecting with other sellers and learning from them. You just never know where this stuff might go. But you just got to keep trying stuff. Take ownership.
Yeah. It's all about being willing to take a chance and being willing to learn, and
Totally.
that growth mindset. So, Andy, thanks for coming on and for teaching us a little bit.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. I loved it. This is so fun.
Yeah, guys, we're going to call it. If you're watching live, here in about 15 minutes, Joey's going to start his live. So go hang out with Joey Bada Bing 22. He's a fantastic guy. He's going to make you smile. Guys, I appreciate it. Andy, thanks once again.
Thank you.